And so I think we need to treat these women, in many cases anyway, with love, with compassion. And if they ask, we have to be honest about our feelings on this.
Let's talk about poor decisions versus immoral decisions. Poor decisions don't make people a bad person.
Right.
Right?
I agree.
But as you said, you could very easily, in your attempt to be good and nice, you could very easily start making decisions that are immoral. So let's try to come up with just a handful of things that are going on in our country right now, or in the world, if you will, too, that exemplify that. And the first one I thought of was the welfare state.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree that it's a good thing for us to help out people that are in need? You know, and I would hope that everybody in there would say yes, that it is a good idea. But what are some of the downsides of the welfare state?
Oh God, how long do we have?
Go for it.
Okay, so one, it makes people dependent, and dependency leads to laziness. Two, it centralizes the concept of charity, which is supposed to be something we do ourselves because we believe it's right, and takes it and turns it into a forced, non-voluntary thing. And on top of that, it then takes your charity money and puts it into things that may or may not truly be charitable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a difference between charity and enablement. And welfare is more of an enablement structure,
right,
geared to churn out votes. And there are so many people today, especially on the political left, and I'll start out by I'm sure I'll pick on the right at some point tonight, but we'll start picking out on the left. The left tends to be full of very lazy people ideologically. And so it becomes even easier for them to accept that by gladly paying their taxes and knowing that those taxes supposedly go towards this robust social safety net, they feel that they're charitable. And they don't realize that in so doing, and in voting for politicians and policies that increase the size of the welfare state, which then also increases the percentages of taxes, that they're taking money away from hardworking people who otherwise need to feed their own children and making them live paycheck to paycheck because now they have less and less of their own money. And it's almost a reverse effect, except for the targeted few who get to be the recipient of that stolen money.
Right. And some of the things, you know, I wrote down a list. The dependency trap is a huge one. It builds generational dependency, and in the course of building that generational dependency, it tears the family apart, which, in my opinion, is one of the things that's been tearing our country apart from the very bottom up. You know, it's destroying the foundational framework that we've got for building a good and robust society. And then, like you mentioned, the inefficiency of it all. You know, our money would be much better spent if we were able to give it through churches and do it that way, in my opinion.
Yep.
You know, you know, another one that I thought about, and this may upset some people, I don't care, is abortion.
Yep.
You know, I know a lot of really nice and good people that consider themselves Christian that are pro-abortion. You know, and no matter what you say to them, they think that they are helping people by killing unborn children.
Yes.
You know, and it's so bad. This one is so bad. You know why they quit using the word fetus? Do you know what the Latin translation of fetus is?
It's baby,
it's literally,
isn't it?
offspring.
Or child.
It's offspring.
Yeah, it's personal.
So you're not only doing that, but in the process of doing that, you're destroying the future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knows the person that was going to cure cancer may have been an aborted baby.
Sure.
This goes back to the question about, you know, when does it go from a bad decision to an immoral decision to a wicked decision?
To all the women in the audience, I will start out by saying, I know that I cannot be raped by my uncle and impregnated. I understand that anything I say about this is my opinion only, and I understand that, and please understand, I'm not speaking for you. I'm speaking for me. I had a conversation on Facebook years ago when I was still on that satanic platform, and the guy literally said it's better to be murdered in the womb than to be born poor. And he firmly believed this. And he believed this because he bought into Marxist ideology. He was a Bolshevik. He was openly socialist, not like Democrat socialist. He was full on swastika, or not swastika, hammer and sickle. He was a straight socialist. And he absolutely believed that the world was a better place if the people who, in his mind, shouldn't procreate didn't. Now, you can make all sorts of really shallow economic arguments for abortion, but they're very shallow because at the basis of all human rights is the right to self-autonomy. And so when you take up any position that asserts that the very right to existence is held in the hands of somebody other than the person whose existence you're talking about, you are advocating for a code that allows essentially for living slavery.
Yeah.
And slavery is immoral, and murder is immoral. And so when you have a very pro-choice, which I hate the terms pro-choice and pro-life. They're dishonest. It's pro-death of who you deem to be worthy of death, and screw the rest is what it is. And so, yes, I'm very, very firmly in the camp of being against abortion. Now, I understand that there are plenty of people who are born into some pretty shitty circumstances. And I understand that there are some people who get very desperate. And I understand that there are some people who get to a point where their back is against the wall, at least in their mind. They have no one to help them. There is no family. There's no father figure in the life. There's no mother in the life. There's a mountain of debt, a mountain of bills, and all of a sudden, bam, right? So we can sympathize with the circumstances that would lead up to somebody being in a position to make that decision. And if it were to happen, it is absolutely forgivable. Okay, this is one area where I think that the right wing has failed, is they have taken the abortion debate and framed it in a way where it almost becomes the unpardonable sin, where it's unforgivable, and where there's no understanding of the circumstances that may have led to a human being in a position to feel that they needed to make that kind of decision. And so I think we need to treat these women, in many cases anyway, with love, with compassion. And if they ask, we have to be honest about our feelings on this. Now transition to 2024, where we have these chicks running around with t-shirts with their abortion count on it. And they're openly bragging about on TikTok of in front of a Planned Parenthood. I've seen this shit. Where they're like 24 and they're like, well, 12th time here.
Yep.
That's where you've gone from making a mistake and an arguably immoral decision to now being evil, as far as I'm concerned, because you have now turned this into an assembly line of death. And as a Christian, I absolutely believe that Planned Parenthood is a physical embodiment of Moloch worship. It is a assembly line of child sacrifice. I think it's masked under a god, this weird blanket of rights and female and women's rights and women's liberation and all these fancy terms. But in my mind, personally, I believe Planned Parenthood is an altar towards Moloch, and it is an assembly line of sending souls to feed that dark energy. So if you're the person who's on TikTok and you're videotaping yourself nonchalantly saying, well, 12th time here, you're fucking evil.
Thanks, Milo.